Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Ben on Sports. And as always, you can always tell by the first page what sport it's going to be. It's another NASCAR episode coming your way today. It is episode 5 because it is week 5 of the weekly series going into Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Without further ado, let's get cooking. Tires, right? The story coming out of last week at Phoenix, man. What a great change the tires have been since they got in. Those options tires certainly made the cars faster and certainly made for some strategy. I will say though, I feel like if NASCAR is going to continue down this road, the option tires need to actually fade. I feel like a lot of cars were able to go 40, 50 laps on those option tires, and that yes, their lap times were falling off, but I don't feel like they were falling off enough. Like it should be, do you want short run or long run speed, and you have to pick that strategy wise, or maybe we just go with the tire that's giving us faster lap times and still has a little bit of fall off. That would be my opinion personally. Just use the better tire. But it certainly seemed like a lot of guys were able to make that tire last a long time without the severe drop off. Just something to keep an eye on, but certainly it seems like the tires could be a solution here at these short tracks to make the short track racing better. And because of that, can short track racing be back? I think so. I think they're working on it. I think NASCAR sees the need. And as somebody who loves short tracks, I really hope they continue to work on it and get it figured out. And as I just said, I think the tires could be the part of the solution. I don't know if they will ever be all of the solution. How is Christopher Bell not first in points? There's been 4 races in the NASCAR season, and he's won 3 of them, and he's second in the points. I understand that stage points exist. I understand you get, although it's only 1, which is not that significant in the grand scheme of things, but you get a point for fastest lap. But I just think it's silly that stage points do so much that William Byron, who is the other race winner, is in first place over Christopher Bell. There's been 4 races. Bell has won 3. To me, there's no way he shouldn't be first place in points. I think that's a little bit silly, but I understand how it got to that point. Anyway, I digress. I just think that's an interesting little piece. Who's going to be the fastest at Vegas is an important storyline. It's the first of the famous intermediate mile-and-a-half tracks that are so important to be fast at in NASCAR. I, for one, will certainly be interested to see which guys appear the fastest because of how important these tracks are. And the people fastest at these intermediate, the people fastest at these mile-and-a-halves are probably have a good chance of winning or at least getting to the playoffs and trying to make some noise. Is this the year for Bell again? I asked this last week because he's won 2. Now he's won 3 in a row. Hey, can he become the first person to win 4 in a row and forever? The most recent one, obviously, or the most recent attempt that is fresh in everybody's mind is obviously 2021 with Kyle Larson. Almost won 4 in a row. And then you can look up what happened at Pocono in 2021 to figure out why he didn't win 4 in a row. Can Bell win 4 in a row? Even if he doesn't, is this the year? He's certainly starting off fast. It almost reminds me similarly of William Byron starting off fast in 2023, I believe, when he won 6 races and he won like 3 or 4 in the first, what felt like 2.5 months. Christopher Bell's off to an even faster start than that. Can this be the year? I'm still asking because he's still being successful. Only time will tell. You hope you're not. You hope this isn't your peak of the season. You hope you carry speed out the rest of the year. And last, who are going to be the next top drivers to get their first win? You know, there's guys like Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin who have been fixtures in the sport for a long time. Don't have their first win of the season. Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott don't have their first win. And we're only 4 races in. But when you see one of the championship contenders, perennial championship contenders in my mind, win 3 of the first 4 races, I think you're like, oh no, what are we doing that we can't also do that? So I'm definitely interested to see if any of those other top drivers, any of the other great drivers in the sport can figure out how to get the victory lane sooner rather than later, or even never and having to rely on points, which can be quite risky with the way the point system is structured. Moving on, history at Las Vegas to the Next Gen again. Next Gen debuted in 2022, so that's the history I do for most of these races. The winners here, Bowman won the first Next Gen race at Vegas. Joey Logano won on his way to a championship in 2022 in the playoffs. William Byron, again, talk about hot starts in 2023, won there in March. And then Kyle Larson went kind of back to back, one fall in spring 23-24. And then Joey Logano wins Vegas last year on his way to a championship. If you are not aware, this means out of the 6 races, 2 teams have won them all, and because it's been 2 teams, it's been 2 manufacturers. Hendrick Motorsports and Chevy has won 4 of the 6, and Penske and Ford, more specifically Joey Logano, has won the other 2. Can Toyota get their first next-gen Vegas win? They're certainly not slow here, and they're certainly not slow on intermediates and next-gen, but they still have yet to win in Vegas for whatever reason. Best average finish, and you can see here, I'll tell you what the stars are next to best average finish and most top 10s in a second. You might be able to guess it without me having to tell you. But best average finish, Ross Chastain has the best average next gen to finish here at 5.5. Second is William Byron with 6.7. And third is Kyle Larson with 8.7. Those 3 average a top 10 finish at Vegas, getting some good stage points. So look for those 3 to be a factor, especially Byron and Larson, who have both won here and are fast here pretty much every race. Kyle Busch at 10.5. Keep in mind, 2 of those races were with Toyota, not Chevy, and Joe Gibbs instead of Richard Childress. But Kyle Busch still pretty fast around his home track at 10.5. Logano, even with 2 wins, is still at 12.2. What does that say about the races he may not be winning? Tyler Reddick also tied with Logano at 12.2. He is another guy that has split time, 2 with Chevy and 4 with Toyota, as he and Busch flipped RCR and Joe Gibbs rides. Moving on. Well, no, I'm sorry. Tyler Reddick, I know, didn't go to Joe Gibbs. He went to 23XI. I was thinking they flipped Chevy and Toyota because Busch replaced Reddick. I apologize. Although in some ways 23XI I feel like is an extension to JGR. But I digress. Most top 5s here. Kyle Larson, what a shocker. Kyle Larson is good at a racetrack. With 4 out of the 6 races, Ross Chastain is tied with him with 4 out of the 6. And then in a 4-way tie for third, in all reality, for most top 5 finishes, more familiar faces in Christopher Bell, William Byron, Kyle Busch, and Alex Bowman. Again, there's I see a lot of Hendrick Motorsports at the front at this track. And then most top 10s, William Byron and Ross Chastain, 2 guys top 5, all but 1 race they've been in the top 10. Probably explains why they have the 2 best average finishes. Then you see Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, and Kyle Larson all tied for third with 4 out of 6 races finishing in the top 10. This is kind of a who's who of names. You look at this, these are 6 of your top probably 8 drivers, definitely 6 of your top 10 drivers in the Cup Series. And guess what? They're good at intermediate tracks. Coincidence? I think not. Now, I'll tell you what this star is about. Martin Truex has raced at every next-gen race in Las Vegas with JGR, but he is retired. This will be his first year not racing here. But Martin Truex actually has the 3rd best next-gen average finish at Vegas. He is in between Byron and Larson, and he would also be number 1 on the top 10 list, as he has 6 top 10s. He has 0 top 5s, but he has 6 top 10s at Vegas. Again, Truex isn't racing, but I didn't want to diminish his impact, and I also think it helps shows how fast Joe Gibbs has been, because they also have 3 fast drivers here, just like Hendrick. Really, it's going to be more of a question of, can Chase Briscoe continue that speed that the 19 team sees to have at Vegas? Only time will tell. My favorites to win, obviously, I've talked about them a lot. Hendrick Motorsports certainly seems to be the fastest team at Vegas and consistently the fastest team. Maybe it's also having the best drivers. That also helps. Hendrick Motorsports, fastest team here. Team Penske and Joe Gibbs, I was going back and forth because Joe Gibbs has more cars that have been consistently fast here, more cars competing for top 5s and top 10s, so they have quantity. But Penske has quality because they have 2 wins where Joe Gibbs has none, and Joey Logano, but outside of those wins, have struggled in some ways. So I didn't really know who to put here, but I'm going to put Penske just because they've won here twice, even though it might, and then Joe Gibbs third. Although I would say, well, Ty Gibbs is on Joe Gibbs and he's struggling, but for the most part, I think Joe Gibbs is going to have the better average finish than Penske is. 23XI with Tyler Reddick. Bubba's been fast this year, or most races this year. I don't know if he's going to be fast this week, and Riley Herbst is a rookie, but I do expect, if no other reason, Tyler Reddick to see at least 123 XI car up front, and a very, very similar thought process for Trackhouse with Ross Chastain. I expect him to be out front, and who knows what will happen with his two teammates. Driver rankings in terms of my favorite to win: Kyle Larson and William Byron, two of the three most successful drivers on this track. Ross Chastain would be the third most successful, and I have him fourth as a favorite to win because, and again, I do like him to be a contender here, but Christopher Bell is super hot. His team definitely seems to be have a lot of momentum and be pretty quick around the track this year. And for that, I bumped him up to third, and he's been fast at Vegas in the past. Joey Logano. I feel like it's it is an odd year for Joey Logano, which historically means not as good as an even year. And I just worry, outside of those two wins, Team Penske has been iffy at Vegas, in my opinion. And I don't know, just Joey Logano, I feel like is going to be a guy at a lot of tracks this year that's either really fast or lucky to be inside the top 20, but that's kind of how he was last year and the year before that. That's how he's been most of next gen. So I will be interested to watch Joey Logano. Denny Hamlin, been fast on intermediates most of his career. He's been fast at Vegas. He does only have one win there, but he's still an above average driver at Vegas, in my opinion. Keep an eye on Denny. You have to keep an eye on most tracks. Tyler Reddick, another guy, he's, I would say, 23XI's flagship car. They're always going to be fast. Tyler Reddick has had some troubles getting good finishes, but he is still bringing speed, and at the end of the day, speed is the most important thing. Alex Bowman has a win here. Hendrick Motorsports, again, super fast at this track. Bowman's won here before. He's experienced. I expect Bowman to be competitive. And just typical Bowman, where not a lot of people talk about him, and then you look up and he's top 10. I feel like that's happened a lot this year. I feel like it happens a lot at these intermediate courses. I would expect nothing less from Alex Bowman. Kyle Busch, I don't know. I'm going to put him here because it seems like he's running a little bit better this year than maybe he was last year from the speed department. I still don't know how much I trust him yet, but Kyle Busch has had speed at pretty much every track. He raced up front a lot of Daytona, Whether or not he got wrecked or finished well there is beside the point. Was in contention to win at COTA, right? It's like he's had speed at a lot of tracks this year. He's also obviously an incredibly talented driver, a really good driver. I expect to see Kyle Busch racing near the front. And Chris Buescher the last couple of years, he's been really good at intermediates, both Charlotte, Texas, Vegas, another one of those 1.5 mile intermediates. I think Chris Buescher might be one of what might be the highest, might be the Ford you see in the top 10, top 15 the most consistently. Chris Buescher has been kind of just okay this year. And this could be the race that gets him some momentum, maybe even a win. Going to the driver power rankings, we have some movement in some places. Obviously, Christopher Bell has won. He's won 3 races in a row. Anybody else would be a mistake. And then William Byron has kind of separated himself. Those two have separated themselves as 1 and 2 this year. William Byron is being second. Kyle Larson up to third. Another good run last week. Was running up front. Kind of had a chance to win, kind of didn't. He's continuing to build momentum. Larson in third. I have Reddick in fourth. I've talked about him. He's bringing speed to the track every week. Last year, he started 18th at Vegas, but still was able to be in the top 5 most of the day. He is finishing worse than he's starting in a lot of races, but some of them are not always his fault. I'll put it that way. And I still believe in Tyler Reddick. After all, he was your regular season points champion last year. I feel like the longer he works for 23XI, the faster he's going to keep getting and the more consistent he's going to keep getting. Denny Hamlin with his first appearance in the top 5 this year, or maybe he was there for Daytona, but Denny Hamlin making a top 5 appearance for pretty obvious reasons. It's Denny Hamlin. He had his best race of the year last week, I would say. And as he said on his podcast multiple times after COTA, we're into the real part of the season. We're racing on the real tracks. It's time to find out who is actually the fastest team, who the actual fastest teams are. Ryan Blaney dropped down a little bit. Was certainly on his way to a great finish at Phoenix before his engine blew, so we definitely lost some momentum. And Vegas has been iffy for him. Let's see if he can get some of that lost momentum back at Vegas. Chase Elliott, only one of the Hendrick cars not to win at Vegas. Can that change this week? He's in an okay spot, a good spot in points. Obviously, it's Chase Elliott. He's always going to have speed. Hendrick's going to bring him a good car. What can he do to can he, like I said, can he become the fourth Hendrick driver to win at Vegas in next gen? That would be quite impressive. Kyle Busch with some consecutive good runs, slowly working it up the power rankings, slowly trying to make get into a decent spot in points early on to the year. And by decent spot, I mean like you're starting to feel comfortable that you're going to be on pace to be in on points, into the playoffs on points, if you don't win a race. Alex Bowman, another guy that's won here, another guy that's putting together consistent finishes, putting together top tens, putting together good finishes, so he can. Again, points are so important, right? I hate to keep on bringing it up because it sounds repetitive, but points are the most important thing, and it also helps you build momentum with those good finishes, and eventually building momentum will get you a win. Chris Buescher, talked about him already. He's very kind of similar to Bowman, just without quite as good as finishes, in my opinion. Joey Logano, up or down, up or down. He's going to move up. He's going to move down on these power rankings a lot. I feel like what Joey Logano shows up this week. Ross Chastain with a chance to break into a top 10 with a good run this week. A little bit was said about Trackhouse and maybe slowing down after 2023 or 2024 with some of the results starting to not be as consistent. And I think if they're going to get it figured out, it's going to be led by none other than Ross Chastain. Bubba Wallace kind of fell back this week on his great start to the year. He's still in a great spot on points. The average finish hasn't quite been there, but the starts have been there. The speed has been there, and he's gotten stage points in a lot of race. I expect Bubba to maybe bring out some qualifying speed. Let's see if he can continue to bring out qualifying speed and get back on get a good finish. Get back on the good finish train. Chase Briscoe got caught up in a wreck last week going 4 wide at Phoenix. Who would have thought going 4 wide isn't always a good thing? It's kind of been mixed results. There's been a lot of tracks where he has had speed but hasn't been able to finish well, hasn't been able to get a lot of stage points. He's kind of hovering around that top 16 in points. Be interested to see if he can stay there. And I talked about Martin Truex speed. Let's see if because this is a track where Briscoe only has one top 10 finish since he came to the Cup Series at 2021. It wasn't the next gen car, but there's been 6 next gen races and only one top 10. So he kind of has struggled here in some ways a little bit. I'm interested to see if maybe getting with James Smalls can help him get some speed and help him get the good finish that he's probably deserved in a couple races and hasn't gotten. Josh Berry, I had him shooting up. He's putting together quite a few good weeks in a row. I mean, I know Coda, but he's not a road course racer. He's an oval guy. Good week in Atlanta before he wrecked. Was a great last week. I'm interested to see if with Berry in that car, if the Woods brother car truthfully looks like a fourth Penske car. Josh Berry is looking like he could potentially be on the makings of a special season and maybe even win a race on some of these short tracks he's so good at. Todd Gilliland with a good start of the year, having his best season by average finish, hanging in there with some of the guys that are supposed to be faster than him. This will really be the test, though. He's never really had a good run at Vegas. Front row doesn't really do well at Vegas. Can Gilliland change that and keep momentum going this season? John Hunter Nemechek having a lot of really good finishes. And again, Vegas, these intermediate tracks usually separate the contenders from the pretenders. But don't forget, everybody's going to, a lot of people will be like, Hunter Nemechek isn't for real. John Hunter Nemechek isn't for real. It's not going to continue at Vegas. But I'll leave you with this. He has a top 10 finish at Vegas. And I believe last year it was either, I can't remember if it was a spring or fall, but Hunter Nemechek does have a top 10 finish there. He's in a great spot in points, much higher than probably a lot of people thought he would be. What does John Hunter Nemechek do? Michael McDowell maybe has deserved some better results. But did you know that right now Michael McDowell's on pace to have the best season of his career based on average finish in race? He's averaging a top 15 this season. I don't want to drop him too far down. Will Michael McDowell stay there? Carson Hocevar, another guy who's been fast at multiple racetracks. Didn't have a great week last week. Didn't have a bad week last week. I still don't expect Spire to bring consistent speed, but it certainly does seem like that they're able to bring some good speed from time to time. Can this be that track? I don't know. And Ricky Stenhouse is off to a good start to the season. He's still okay on points. They're still bringing a little bit of speed. I'm interested to see if Ricky Stenhouse can keep it up. There is some, I would say, pretty big drivers from major teams that I don't have in my top 20, and it's because I think they are kind of severely underperforming, and I'm interested to see if that continues. I somebody like Ty Gibbs who's really struggling, a Daniel Suarez who has been in and out, even Austin Dillon. He's won races in his career. He's been in the playoffs with RCR. His teammate is running well. I really want to see something from those guys, or I think they could be in some trouble this offseason or next. And I would argue those guys, all three of them, should be in the top 20. Maybe these intermediates, like I said, that's where the fastest teams, the best drivers, are supposed to shine over the slow ones. And if that's the case, I feel like they need solid top, not even top 20, top 15 runs to prove that they belong in that echelon. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you for spending time out of your days and weeks to listen and watch. I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave me your hot takes on NASCAR. Leave me your opinions below. Check out some other videos on the channel. Also, let me know what you guys want to see, whether it's short form content, whether it's long form content. Let me know what you guys want to see, and I'll see if I can make it happen. Have a good week. Watch NASCAR if you have time. Sunday is quite a busy day for sports, especially with things like March Madness. A lot going on. Have a good week. And please, 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 like, comment, and subscribe. Those are the things you can do that help me the most. Peace.